welcome back to the studio. I'm really excited about this one, so let's jump right in. Guitar tone is a very interesting thing. It's something all of us guitar players care about, yet it's something highly individual and unique to each one of us. If we work hard at it, it can help us to craft a signature sound for our music. This is especially true for session musicians. So if you go in a studio and look at some players' boards, you're not going to find too many commonalities, except for one. The XTS modded Boss EQ. A lot of guitar YouTubers and session musicians go to this pedal to help them craft their tone. I definitely want to mention some of the players that are using this pedal. If you're watching this on YouTube, chances are you like a lot of the same channels I do. There's some absolute legends with guitar YouTube channels right now. People like Tim Pierce, who's been playing on hit records since the 1980s, a great session musician. He's got a channel he does from his home studio where he does most of his recording now. And he featured the XTS modded Boss EQ on one of his episodes. He loves the pedal. Also, Sean Tubbs. I first saw Sean playing with Stone Temple Pilots on their Unplugged, and I didn't know who it was, but I've since come to find out that was Sean. He's a great player, really plays differently than what you're going to hear most other places. Great player. Has some of my favorite licks on YouTube. Also, Tom Bukovac has the homeschooling channel. This is when I first started getting into YouTube, which was fairly recently. The first episode I saw was the first episode that Tom Bukovac did. It was the day that COVID started, the lockdown started, and he went on YouTube, and I've been addicted to the channel ever since. He's a great player, and it was his idea to come up with this EQ pedal. He mentioned it to the people at XTS, and they designed it for him. So it became what it is today because of Tom Bukovac. Also, a player named Greg Wells, a great session player. He doesn't have a YouTube channel that I'm aware of, but he's been on all kinds of records for a long time. He's got two of these on his board. The first one is the one you can order from XTS, those same frequencies, and he has another one that is a little more customized with some other frequencies that I don't believe you can get. But if that doesn't tell you, he's got two of them on his board. He really likes the pedal. So it's a great tone shaper and really great in the studio to do things that normally an engineer would do. It puts it in the hands of the guitar player. Before we get into some sound examples and use cases for the pedal, I want to talk about my channel just a bit. I've had the channel well over a year now, and my subscriber count is still low. I feel like my production quality for these videos has come a long way, especially with my video editing. And I've always done the audio through high-quality microphones into the DAW, whether that's tracking music that I put on the channel or doing gear demos or studio tips like we're doing now. So I don't think that the channel's low subscriber count is due to the production quality. I feel like it's the algorithm not pushing my videos. I also talk about things I think people want to learn. It's usually things that I've had to learn probably fairly recently. I do topics that are on top of my mind because it's something I'm working through at the moment. So anything you can do to help me with the channel, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and it all helps me and helps this channel grow. I'll also leave a PayPal QR code at the top. At the end of that last clip, my son just got up from his nap. I'm a single father. I have my son full-time. His nickname is Kiko. That's the reason for the channel name, G and Kiko's Home Studio. He's the best part of my life. I had some very interesting results level matching these sound examples. But before I get into that, let me tell you about the signal chain. The guitar is a 54 reissue Les Paul Gold Top, an R4 if you will, going into a clone, a Warm Audio Centavo. It's set very light, gain is well below 12 o'clock, and that's just to boost the amplifier a little bit. From the clone, we're going into the XTS EQ, settings shown here, and into my 67 twin reverb. That's a vintage 67. It's got one JBL and one stock Fender speaker. I have a SM57 on the JBL, and that's going into my BAE 1073 mic preamp. I love this preamp. I want to get a couple more of them. No EQ on it. It gives you that harmonic distortion that you love in all these classic recordings. And that's going into a Focusrite 18i20 interface and into the DAW. In the DAW, I'm using another Neve style preamp just for high passing and noise gate. The high pass is at 70. Everything else is set flat, and there's no automation in the DAW. If I'm doing it to the side without the XTS EQ, both sides are getting the same thing. Also, there's a DBX 160 compressor on there, and in post, I used an Echoplex reverb from Echo Boy to just give you a little bit of flavor on the recording. So, on the sound example, when I was level matching, I cut a couple dB off on the pedal to help balance it out, because the human ear perceives any level bump, any increase in volume, the human ear perceives it to sound better. So if you're doing a comparison like this, you definitely want to level match. And what I did also is I took another couple dB off in the DAW. So when you hear these sound examples, actually the example without the EQ pedal on is louder. It's registering higher on my VU meter than the example with the XTS EQ, but it sounds quieter. And the reason for that is the human ear also perceives mid-range as louder. Even though it's not as high on the dB meter, it's still perceived louder by our ear. I've heard a lot of comparisons stating this, and you don't really understand it until you get the results yourself. So when you hear it, it's going to sound like the guitar going straight into the amplifier through the clon is quieter than the XTS EQ, but actually it's louder. Let's get into some ways to use the pedal and some frequencies. First off, I want to mention the simplest way to use it is just to push up this last fader here and use it as a clean boost. If you use it before your distortions and overdrives, it'll make them grittier, give them more dirt, and a little bit of a volume bump. And if you use it after your overdrives and distortions, you'll just get a straight volume bump. Now, when you get an EQ pedal, you're going to want to experiment a lot. And with this specific EQ, it doesn't take big moves on the faders to get big results. Just a small cut or a small boost, and you're going to notice a significant change in your guitar tone. If you're working in a mix, this pedal is going to show you the frequencies that you need to cut through that mix. It's really great for that. One of the first things I did when I got the pedal was I took out a little bit of 400, which is this first fader here, the lowest fader. And then to supplement that, I put some 800 back in. And what that does, when you take out 400, if you're running combo amps especially, sometimes they'll get boxy. And those boxy frequencies live right around 400 cycles. So if you take that out, it's going to go a long way in helping to remove that boxiness. Also, you might want to add some top end with that, the 2.5K or 4K fader. It gives a little bit of spark or presence in your mix, because you're boosting that low end. You want to do a little bit to the top a lot of times as well. Now, anything from 1 to 3K is going to give you cut in a mix. It's where guitar frequencies, it's what we hear, what our ears are naturally attuned to. I guess through evolution, we're trained to hear those frequencies. It's what the human ear detects. So anything from 1 to 3K is going to be cut. If you want to remove some honkiness, those frequencies are usually right around 2K. There's a 2K slider here. So if you've got some honky guitar parts that are a little too nasal, take out some 2K, and that'll get that right out of there. The 4.2 or the 4K fader is gonna give you that top end sparkle, that brilliance. The 2.5K is gonna give you presence, make you both those. If you add a little bump to either of those, it's gonna give you air in the mix.